and generate the level of productivity and employment that could actualize the economic recovery and growth plan, legislation is a very key component of what we're trying to do. And that's why the NESG created a whole full plenary for this. And so without much ado, we want to kick it off. And so we'll kick off. A lot of the other people are still at the pitch event. But let me welcome all of you to the plenary that is focused on the legislature. To moderate this segment and this panel is a senior fellow of the NESG in charge of public policy and institutional development. Please welcome Dr. Tayo Adoju. Let's appreciate him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you very much. These are our panelists. I'd like to welcome here the Senate leader and a very solid intellectual indeed, PhD, remote sense and GIS. I'd like to welcome here distinguished Senator Ahmed Lawan. Where is he? Okay, all right, thank you. Let me also welcome Honorable Sylvester Ogbaga, Chairman House Committee on Commerce. Please take your seat. I welcome you. Honorable Chris Azubogo, Deputy Chair, House Appropriations. Yes, please. I'm sorry you're taking your seat here, sir. I welcome you. Okay, distinguished Senator Abubakar Kerry, and then distinguished Senator David Umaru will also be joining the panel. Let me now welcome, and today, especially for the next panelist, is International Day for the Girl Child. That's one of her passions, apart from being the founder of Chair Center, apart from being the chairman of First Bank, apart from being an author and a motivational speaker. I'd like to welcome Mrs. Ibukun Awushika. You're welcome. Distinguished Senator Abubakar Kyari and Senator David Umaru, I'm sure when they step into the hall, they will be joining us. The panel is set to discuss the legislative arm of all of this conversation around creating opportunities in the country. But to give us a background of this whole discussion, I'd like to welcome a member of the NASBA Technical Committee and also the chairman of the Technical Committee of NES 23, Nana Ude.
Good evening, everybody. The theme for this session today is creating opportunities through legislation. And the project that was set up about a year and a few months now, called the National Assembly Business Environment Roundtable, as a partnership between the National Assembly, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and the MBA section on business law. And we got support from DFID through their Enable 2 program. And that platform was created to engage, deliberate, and take action on a framework that will improve Nigeria's business environment using legislations. Since the launch of the partnership, we have been able to achieve quite a lot. First, we conducted a business environment review of all the legislations by a team led by Professor Paul Idonige, SAN. And that review identified 104 legislations that had direct impact on the business environment. Thereafter, we conducted an economic impact assessment review to be able to identify the economic impact of reviewing, amending, or repealing those legislations. That was led by Mr. Obemi Agbaje. And then we had a peer review. All the partners, we had a session where we reviewed those reports and adopted it as a common document for us. And that is what we call the NASBA report. And like I said, 104 legislations, 54 acts, and 50 bills proposed to be enacted. So we had our inaugural event on March 21st, 2016, when the roundtable was formally inaugurated. This year, we had our annual dialogue event at the National Assembly. Both events were at the National Assembly because we wanted the National Assembly to take ownership of the project. So all our engagements are done within the National Assembly premises. And in doing this, we identified 5 strategic pillars that will drive this roundtable because we want it to be a framework that will endure for a long time to come. So we knew we had to create a structure. We identified stakeholder mapping and engagement because even though the partnership is between the NESG, MBA, SBL, and the National Assembly, we also recognize that there are other strategic stakeholders out there that we needed to bring into the process. So we did a stakeholder mapping and engagement with those stakeholders and established a collaboration framework with those stakeholders. We also identified communication as a strategic pillar because if the Nigerian public is not aware of a project like this, we may not succeed in getting the buy-in of the entire Nigerian people. Funding was also identified as a strategic pillar, and I'm going to speak to that much later. Then knowledge and research was another pillar that we identified because we want to build our work on evidence and research. So in terms of structure, we have a steering committee, which is like the advisory council of NASBA. The steering committee sets and drives the agenda and endorses all activities that we intend to do. But more importantly, because of the quality of people that are in the steering committee, they are charged with engaging in high-level lobbying in getting these bills passed. Mrs. Ibukwa Wushika is a member of that steering committee. The MBA president is a member. The NESG chairman is a member. Mr. Dr. Olisa Wakoba, SAN, is a member. And the co-chairs are the chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business and the Senate Committee on Rules and Business, because they are the ones that manage the process of getting these bills through. Dr. Doyin Salami is also a member of the steering committee, as well as Mrs. Ndidi Nguneli. Then we have the technical committee that actually gets the job done. All the partners are also represented. Mr. Sheni Adio represents MBA. I am there for the NESG. Then we have Mr. Kingsley Amaku from the Office of the Senate President and the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Speaker as also members of the technical committee. But the chair is the NESG CEO. So the work of that committee is to develop the agenda for every quarter and coordinate the roles between all the participating members and partners. Then we convene all the policy roundtables we've had, all the dialogues and the debates that we've had. Then, more importantly, we have 10 working groups because we have 104 bills and acts, like I said. So we created them into 10 baskets and dumped all these bills in the relevant baskets where they belong as working groups. The working groups are competition, regulations, trade, investment, infrastructure and urban development, arbitration, e-business and intellectual property, taxation, finance, and constitutional review, because we also identified some sections of the Constitution that we feel need to be either repealed or reviewed to improve the business environment. A lot of hard work has gone into what we've done so far, and we must commend the National Assembly for the quality and the speed they have brought to bear in getting this done. Some of the bills that we have been able to pass through this process are the Nigerian Railway Authority Bill, the Federal Roads Bill, the National Roads Fund Bill, the Nigerian Inland Waterways Bill, Nigerian Ports and Harbors Bill, National Transport Commission Bill, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Bill, the Nigerian Independent Warehouse Regulatory Agency Bill, and a lot of all others. Our briefing material actually talks about those legislations and the economic impact that we identified. Now, the value we brought into this process, the members of the National Assembly here will say more about this. Normally, there is a first reading and then the second reading. That then commits the bill to public hearing. So we then introduced an additional element into the process. We proposed and they accepted that we should have technical advisory committees immediately after the public hearing that will bring in experts into the process to review all the submissions at the public hearing, do a research and analysis of global best practices around the framework that drives those bills, and try to adapt them to the Nigerian environment. So when we've done that, then we infuse all our amendments, all our proposals into a draft bill, and then submit. As a result, the quality of the bills that have come out have been much more than excellent. As a matter of fact, some of those bills, because some of us who have been working on especially the infrastructure bills, anytime we finish our work, we always say that this is one thing we can export to the rest of the world. Because when you review other legislations across the world and see what we eventually come up with, you will be proud of the work we have done so far. We have 2 trophy legislations in the sense that only 2 have been signed into law. The Secure Transactions in Movable Assets that will enable SMEs access credit through their movable assets and establish a national collateral registry, and also the Credit Reporting Act. So that's much of the work we've been able to do so far, but there is still work left to do. 1, we would like the National Assembly to pass all the outstanding bills that we have identified. Even though I've mentioned about 15 of them, remember I talked about the 104. So I hope that during this conversation, we can extract some commitments from them on passing those outstanding bills. Furthermore, there are some of those bills that have been passed by both chambers of the House, and they have not yet been harmonized and sent to the executive for assent. We also will call on the National Assembly to harmonize those bills. Because, like, take the railway bill. The Senate passed it in July 2016. The House passed in March 2017. As we speak, it hasn't been harmonized. It hasn't been sent to the executive for assent. The same with the competition bill. It's been signed by the Senate, passed by the Senate, passed by the House, still not harmonized, still not assented into law. And that gives us a lot of cause for concern. Because when we've put in all this work, we actually want to see results because of the direct impact we have identified they will have on the economy. I just also want to say something about the infrastructure bills, the innovation we brought into the process. We transformed them into sector bills that have now clearly delineated rules. We separated policy from asset ownership, management and operations, and regulation. Because one of the challenges we had before is that all of these rules were modeled in those legislations, and then it was difficult to get the private sector to come in and invest, because when they see those legislations, they just move back. I remember a story we heard once. Someone said a group, Dangote group, had some foreign partners that came to talk about the railway about a year or two ago, and they were confronted with a 1955 legislation. And so they packed their bags and left. Again, all of this work requires funding. And we are doing this on behalf of the private sector. So standing in front of you, we also want to let you know that NASBA needs as much support from the private sector as we can get. Finally, I talked about the working groups. They are open for membership, everybody here. That's where the real work is done, the real work of the research, that's where we nominate members into the Technical Advisory Committee I talked about. That's where we do communication. So I will also request that Erefa is here somewhere. She's the one coordinating it. She's there at the back. If you give her your contact details, she will reach out to you and pick any of the working groups and join us in the work we are doing. Thank you very much.
Very quickly, for the conversation to commence, let me also welcome Dr. Ayodele Teriba, who is actually the CEO of Economic Associates Limited, to please step to the stage. And then distinguished Senator Dada, who will be joining us here to also throw more light on the issues on the table. The Green Senator will welcome you. Thank you very much for your commitment and interest. Moderator, over to you.
So welcome to the legislative session that is dealing with creating opportunities through legislation. And with such a high-powered panel, I'm sure we're going to have some exciting time and dive into the issues. I think the point that has been raised by the background presentation covers all aspects of the discourse. Just to stress the fact that the process of inclusive legislation making, which NASBA accentuates and characterizes, is a welcome idea. The Senate President was here last year and made some commitments with regards to the passage of priority bills. So I will first, and committed last year, for those of us that were here last year, that we will see opportunities created via legislation. So I'm going to ask each panelist to first point on the back of the presentation how they see opportunities already being created, if any, from the legislations that have been passed. In this case, we only have 2 legislations been passed so far. So I'll begin with Dr. Ayo Teriba. So we have 2 legislations that have been passed, and we are discussing opportunities through legislation. Okay, what can we point to here, to looking at these 2 legislations as the economic opportunities we're seeing?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone. I would have thought that since the legislators are here, it would have been better to hear from the
To hear from them first.
Yes. And
okay,
then
so
we non-legislators
can come second.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay, so you make a good point. So, Honorable Sylvester, you have a go. So we have started this process. There's a lot of work that has been done. We're excited about the progress we've made. But the question is, can the National Assembly say we have created opportunities? If so, where and how?
Let me welcome my co-facilitators here, and then go straight to the issue of legislations. In concluding any piece of legislation and signing it into law, there are intendments of these legislations. And if there are intendments of these legislations, the process is not where we are. We'll come back to the process of making bills and how the general public can facilitate and be part of that process. But whether there's opportunity, for instance, in the secure transaction, using movable assets, for instance, initially, our vehicles, our trucks, all the things that move were not recognized as collateral for getting loan facilities from the bank. But with this piece of legislation, the macro, small, medium enterprises who do not have big structures, big properties, big investments, can, as simple as that, use what they have to get mobilized to do their business and increase the volume of businesses they are doing. We talked about bills that has to do with some infrastructural development. We look at using generators to run production. This multiplies the production into number of folds. If there are legislations that increase power, for instance, it gives every small business enterprise opportunity to run smoothly by just paying the bill that is due for them, instead of the tears and wears of their generators, the cost of diesel in the markets at the moment. These are the opportunities. These are the interests made by major stakeholders in that bill. I come again to what we don't do if we look at achieving these results. In Nigeria today, when you talk about lobbying, what their mind goes to is giving out bribe, but it is completely different. What transpired during this piece of legislation, there were a lot of lobbying. Madam should bear me witness of what transpired. Some individuals and members of NASBA were like going from one office to the other, finding out what has not been done, whose fault is it not to have done that, and be able to push the bill further until it becomes an act. For instance, there are some of these legislations that are hanging in either of the chambers. Maybe the chairman is not pushed to know that it is so important that he has to follow it up. There are no funds for certain cleanup or other exercises surrounding the bills. Or that there is no interest at all shown about it.
So basically it comes back to the benefit of the
law-making from the
component. Thank you, Honorable Sylvester. So let's go to you, Honorable Chris. The question of creating opportunities, because as the law-making institution of the country, when you look at these bills, you hope that these bills will deliver a specific set of impacts, and you have the oversight responsibility of then seeing that not only are the bills signed into law, but that they deliver the envisaged legislative impact. These bills that have been signed into law, what opportunities do you envisage they'll create, and what are the mechanisms for oversight that you see should be in place or you have put in place to ensure we reap the dividends of their passage?
Thank you, moderator, my distinguished co-panelists, our respected guests. Thank you very much. Your question is very, very clear on the envisaged benefits from the past laws. First and foremost, I want to take a classical example of warehouse receipt. Warehouse receipt as a tool for improved business environment can easily help even small farmers, small producers, to meet quality. And in course of trying to meet that quality, you are creating another opportunity. And you create, in developing standard warehouses that will receive products from small-scale businesses or micro, small, and medium-scale businesses and put them in a structured warehouse that will collateralize those assets for them to receive credit, even for further production. Assuming a groundnut farmer produces enough groundnut, maybe in 5 hectares, and wants to buy another set of input, and delivers his product in a warehouse, managed by a quality-controlled environment and all the things ready for export. In that warehouse, his products, because after grading and weighing it, gives him a value. Any person that is in the business environment can trade on that receipt as a tradable instrument. It creates a lot of opportunities for businesses, even the financiers. You now have a secure platform for you to give out money that will yield money for you. Because if you feel unsafe, you can't do business with the person. But because that platform has been created and properly regulated, it created an opportunity for people. Same thing goes with the newly done commodity exchange. Do you understand? Because you can't drive warehouse without commodity exchange. What we are trying to do now is how to make businesses that doesn't look attractive to become businesses. Take, for instance, a young graduate who wants to be a cotton producer. Do you understand? Gets to, and you have a standard warehouse that's in an exchange that can accept his commodities at production. Immediately he finishes, even before he produces, there's forward contracts. These are creating opportunities and they're developing capacity to produce more. Why I mention these two critical aspects is that we're trying to make sure that we increase productivity, increase our GDP, create employment. I just mentioned 2 things. Imagine if all our cotton farms are going to come up fully with a lot of graduate farmers getting engaged, starting off slowly, but because what killed agriculture before now was commodity boards that were scrapped. And we need a replacement for that. If you have a strong commodity exchange located with warehouses all over the place, I can tell you the increase in productivity will be high because every producer will be sure there's a market and every buyer will be sure of where to get raw materials. We are challenging today on the floor the importation by WACOP of about 70,000 metric tons of GMO maize. You can imagine if such opportunity was created and the enabling environment was there and there's proper warehouses whereby these producers will look up and say, we can have 100 tons of maize. Instead of importing, you can avoid the multiplier effect in our economy. That's why these two samples I've given with warehouse receipt and the commodity exchange can simply put in place what you can, if you look at it, then we secure transaction bills and other things we've done. You see that once you improve all those limitations we have in our MSMEs, micro, small, and medium-scale businesses, access to finance, secure transactions, all these things, infrastructure, all these things, what we're doing now, you can simply say increase activity in the economy. So you can see there are opportunities. More younger people who are looking for employment will want to embrace private sector because there'll be a lot of opportunity. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator Dada, the point about, so for example, has the Senate started to track the implementation of the movable, the collateral register, for example? Do you know what the status is? Is there a process? Because the point we're making, it seems, is that we agree that this law has the potential, right, to unlock credit. What is the mechanism today in the Senate for tracking that the collateral register is active and that your law, which has now been signed, that is now a law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is delivering the promise? Are there mechanisms in place yet? Are they going to be put in place? We want to know how we can hold ourselves accountable.
Thank you, yes, Mr. Moderator and the panelists. Yeah, I think over the past couple of months, the state has worked so hard to make sure that this law, as referred to, for movers have been passed a law. But we have problems. The problem we have in this country is the documentation systems. All assets, some of them have no genuine documentation that the bank can take as a collateral. You have that issues. And again, when you are moving economy migrating from petroleum-based economy into commodities economy, it's a different ball game. Nigeria have not studied over the years the discipline and the regulation that are involved in using all these kind of instruments for security. So the Senate may pass a law, right, but regulations and supervisions of this law is a challenge. And that is now rest on the lap of the Senate. The operators who are outside there is going to be the driver of these policies. We want to take government away from commerce completely. Let the private sector drive and come out with international best practice. And these are the where I feel the Senate has to make sure that we listen to what is happening. The only thing I feel really happy about is that over the years, the Nigerian Economic Summit have not been taking the government institution into confidence. They plan everything themselves, but those who implement this policy are the government. When they are not involved in the initial stage or infancy stage of development, then they have nothing to add. Either they throw your paper on one side and they do their own. So I'm happy now that we're having a synergy whereby both parties. So I think the Senate is very ready and willing. Although when people complain we don't pass bills, we have 340 bills that don't pass. I don't think we can do that. This Senate cannot pass all these bills. It's not possible because more and more bills are coming. But the economic drive, the commodity exchange, right, and then the warehousing policy systems, these are also how to deal with the banking systems. They have to interfere with the banking policy systems.
So Senator Dada, let me just be clear. You are saying that the 104 priority bills of NASBA cannot be passed between now and 2019, no, yes?
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
What I'm saying, 104 bill is just part of 350 bills that we have, right? And they all have their significance. Yours is more economic-driven and policy system to make sure the economy move forward and represent Nigerian economy, yes. We also have some bills that are also crucial in terms of security, in terms of banking systems, in terms of insurance cover for all these things are very, very key. So definitely, I can't say they are going to pass 140 of your NASA bill this next 30 months.
What about the bills, and I'll come to Mr. Woshike on this matter. We have categorized the bills at least into 4 categories in NASBA as we think it impacts business. So we have the bills that impact on the ease of business. We have the bills that impact on market and competition. We have the bills that impact on access to finance, like the collateral register, and we have the infrastructure bills. We spent a whole lot of sessions yesterday and today discussing de-risking infrastructure, and it came down a lot of times to the law. Yep. So the question from a business point of view is, can we afford not to pass these bills in this year? I mean, can we afford, there was a session, the opening session yesterday, Mr. Rice kept stressing what business needs is speed. Can we afford not to move faster? You know, and if we can't, what must we do?
Thank you very much. I think the place to start, I mean, for me first is even to make the business community itself understand the urgency that's involved in this. I mean, we've had various sessions and we've had a lot of engagement, but I think somehow because we've operated business in an environment where we have not been actively engaged with the legislature, a lot of people have learned to find a way to do business without thinking about that segment. And unfortunately, it's a losing game for those of us in business, because even if you know the minister, you know the president, you know whoever is in charge, and an announcement is made or a regulation or whatever is made that favors your business for a time and a season, if it's not embedded in law, it's only a transient act. It means that when the next governor or the next president or the next minister comes, everything can be shut down overnight, which is part of the inconsistency in government policy that we talk about. So what we're actually trying to do through NESG and working with the Bar Association, the business section, and with the support of DFID and everybody that is involved working with the National Assembly in solving this problem is to try and truncate that process of policy somersaults that we have by establishing certain things that are necessary for business to thrive, but establishing them in law rather than in announcements. Now, so what does that mean? It means that the private sector needs to understand that this is life or death for us. It's critical, it's mission critical for business, that the regulations or the legislations that have been identified by NASBA and that is actively being pushed in engagement with the National Assembly, that whatever it is that we need to do to make sure that the laws are passed into operation, that we do that. Also because we know that if this assembly ends in 2019, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you see the processes for passing a law, they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 8 processes. Each one can take, well, I guess they're smiling, but they can tell you the amount of time that is involved in moving from one stage to another and the level of engagement and lobbying that is required. And even if you are at stage 7 and this assembly completes its course, we're going to have to start afresh. So for us, it becomes, we don't want to waste our time and our resources. And we're appealing to the members of the assembly that if we prosper, you prosper. If the country prospers, then we all support the politicians in our zone. We support their policies. The country does well, and you can all use those details and data to compete in the next election. And businesses make everybody look good. So at the end of the day, whether it's 104, it's only 104 now, but even if we come up with some more, because we're willing to help, because we're willing to provide the manpower and the resources you need to be able to complete it, we're saying if we need to work 24/7, providing the legal support through the Bar Association, providing human resource through businesses contributing money to get the right manpower for you to drive the resources, we will do it because it's in the interest of all of us. We're talking about growing our economy. We're talking about an economy that is just coming out of recession. We're talking about an inefficient economy, not because we do not have the resources for us to be a great economy, but because things are not working well. And the actual impact of each of these bills can be so rapid, just they are transformational. And when you think about the fact that Between 2015, end of 2015, when this process started, and now, you have about 14 bills that are in process. Only 2 have been signed to law. And if we get many more live, the rest of it, the private sector who knows that they need these resources will then work out the next process. I mean, let's even just complete the laws at the National Assembly. Then we will task ourselves at NESG, working with the rest of the private sector, to make sure that they create the value for which the laws were passed in the first instance. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sariba, you are one of the leading economists in Nigeria. When you look at these bills in these 4 categories, can you estimate for the audience what the economic impact can be? Because sometimes we think it's just a law. But those of us in the NASDAQ process that have looked at some of these laws, I sat through a lot of the infrastructure, some of the infrastructure bill review sessions. And you know, you're looking at a clause, and that one clause can unlock $1 billion, $2 billion, $10 billion, multiples of $1 billion worth of opportunities. Can you just estimate, in terms of the economic imperative for impact, what we miss if we do not do this now, particularly knowing that we have the time window? We don't have forever. This session ends in 2019, whether we like it or not. And this opportunity of this National Assembly ends also. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. I should start by saying that by commending the NESG, for creating...
Can you speak up a bit louder? Can you hear?
I should start by commending the NESG for creating, this opportunity for us to focus on legislation. The 3 main pillars of democracy, the party, the parliament, and the president. The president presides over the bureaucracy as well. We tend to focus on the executive, and we neglect, the parliament. So this is very commendable. I'm happy there is a standing committee, that looks into this. And I am grateful for the fact that the distinguished legislators have created a background for us. I would like to speak on two aspects, of this issue. Everything that has to do with the economy, whether you are talking about economic policy, the part of the executive, or you are talking about economic legislation, there are some important gaps that should be kept in mind, that should be optimized. For the executive, they call them economic policy gaps. And that's where most of the literature are concentrated. But from the conversation going on here, you may want to frame it as economic legislation gaps, in the context of this legislative discourse. And the first gap is recognition gap. How long does it take for you to recognize a problem as one that requires a regulatory intervention, whether to enact a new statute or to amend existing statutes? I'm not going to provide an answer, but it's something for distinguished legislators to ponder about and try and shorten the gap. For example, we've been in a recession for 5 quarters until we exited it last quarter. Was it recognized, was that recession recognized as something requiring a legislative intervention? I remember during the global economic crisis, it did not take the American Congress long for them to provide a platform. The president showed up in Congress. The governor of the central bank showed up in Congress, and speedily, as lengthy as that is, they made a response that bailed America out of that global crisis. So how long does it take us to recognize? So they recognized in a very short time. And the second lag is decision lag. Once you recognize there is this a problem that could drag the economy down, you then know that you need to do something. It takes some time to decide on what that something is, what sort of, legislation. So how long does it take us? So how quickly do we recognize problems? How quickly do we decide what sort of, are we amending existing statutes? Are we enacting new ones? And the third lag is action lag. When you have recognized that this is a problem that requires intervention, you have decided the type of intervention, how long does it take for the legislative action to be consummated? So these are things we need to keep in mind. In places where you have legislative effectiveness, it's part of democratic effectiveness, you find that they create, in England they call them select committees. In the US they call them joint committees, in which both Senate and Rep sit together. And what distinguishes the select committees from the other committees is that the select committees don't legislate. They exist to recognize and to decide on what should happen. So they place the ball, if you like, for the other committees of Congress or Parliament. And the other committees then don't waste time on recognition. They don't waste time on decision. They focus on legislation. So we might, in Nigeria, as our democracy matures, want to consider that possibility. And finally, the present problem, the problem that Nigeria has now, though we talk about recession, we have talked about devaluation, we have talked about inflation. Those are not the problem. We have only one problem. Those are symptoms of that one problem. And I would urge that we recognize that problem as one to be solved, and it might require legislative intervention. And the problem is that whereas Nigeria enjoyed export inflows of $100 billion on average from 2005 to 2014, since 2015, it's dropped below half of that because of the collapse in oil price. So Nigeria has lost 50 billion, which used to be foreign exchange supply, which used to be government revenue. So it's a liquidity problem. It is that liquidity problem that caused the recession. It's that liquidity problem that caused the devaluation, and it's the devaluation that caused the inflation. So for sustained economic recovery, Nigeria needs to look for that 50 billion shortfall going forward. So our problem being a liquidity problem, and it's a foreign exchange liquidity problem. It's an investment, it's a foreign investment problem. Is there a role that legislation can play in easing the inflow of investment into Nigeria? What's that role? And so a recognition issue, a decision issue, and an action issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Teriba. Well said. I will open this conversation to the floor because we have very limited time. So I will take 6 interventions. Once is longer than 60 seconds, I will start to count. After the next 60 seconds, I will short you down, permit me. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I only have 1 woman. Can I have another woman? I've counted that woman's at 5. Yes. Okay. 6. So let's take these 6 questions. So let's begin in the front. Yes.
Thank you very much. Laura Jala is my name, CEO of the Economic Summit Group and the chairman of the NASBA Technical Committee. Distinguished Senator and honorable members, you give me a lot of fear and scare, especially with regard to those critical 14 bills that have been passed by both houses that requires harmonization, that if we fail to do between now and 2019 as zero, believe you me, I can't go back to all these people to say support again. We're talking about real. And that was passed as far back as July 2016 at the Senate. And House had done the same thing. A lot of work has gone into it. You gave me fear. What I was expecting is that a commitment that before the end of the next 2 months, we will do whatever it is we need to do to harmonize and send them to the president for his assent. Because, look, Apapa having problem, Jeba having problem, all these are what logistics can do. You open the area for everybody and we can do real. Don't give me this heart attack, because I can't go to my people again and say, come and support if this effort goes down the drain. My question, please, when are we going to harmonize and pass these 14 bills? Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Iniro Wills, and my name is Iniro Wills, and my question is very simple. Now, by May, June 2019, any pending bill that is not passed expires, more or less. Can't we fix that problem? There's some things that just don't make sense, except you're perhaps initiated to understand what the rationale is. So there must be a way we can have a constitutional amendment so that legislative work that has already been done simply rolls over to the next session. It's a very simple, practical problem, and it can be solved.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
I'm Engineer FC Ogolo. I just want to comment on the bills that have been passed by both houses. I'm happy to hear that the road fund had been passed by both houses. Because there was a time, there was a scare in the Senate about the road fund. This rumor just started, they wanted to increase the price of fuel. And this road fund is the key to stop the breakdown of all our roads. We cannot move to anywhere in this country. Once the road fund bill is well passed and signed into law, then a commission will be set up to collect these funds from mainly petroleum. Every fuel we sell at the filling station, every pint of fuel, we will collect some part of it, let's say 5% of, and so on. And then the Federal Ministry of Works will apply for their requirements. The states will apply. Local governments will apply. Every person will have his own share. So I'm appealing to the National Assembly to do all in their power to pass this bill within the next 1 month so that we utilize this dry season to start it. We don't need to wait for only 100 billion naira to cook fund and so on. It will be money that will be round the clock. That's number one. Then PIB.
2 minutes is up. Okay, so quickly.
Okay. PIB. Please try your best. You will have heard what is happening in the whole world about going to electric and so on. This is the bill. Whether you want to break it into 3 parts or anything, do that before the end of this year. So that foreign investment, the doc there raised the issue of foreign investment coming in. Once you finish all these your governance bills in PIB, the money will flow in because the people trying to invest want to be sure what are the rules. So once you pass the PIB, funds will flow in. You don't need to sell MPC or anything. People will come in and enroll, and you give the communities their own share so that there will be peace in the Niger Delta. And we utilize our oil plus the chain that will be created.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well said. Yes, let's take that comment, and I'll take the one there, and then I'll come back.
Yeah, my name
Okay,
is...
so there's one more lady, so two ladies. Yes.
My name is Olajumoke Simples. I'm the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. And this is very pleasing to me to listen to what we're talking about here. Professor Teriba has spoken about the loss of foreign exchange. And I think we should look inward to taxation. Bills on taxation. My brother here just spoke what I wanted to say, the PIB bill. How many years till now? Till now, it's just been passed piecemeal. The national tax policy that has been put together, let us drive it. Let us go green. Let our economy go green. And then when we do that, we will look at the leakages in the Tax Act. The minimum tax, we've been saying we should remove it. All this while, nothing has been done. The last time we said, let us increase VAT and reduce companies' income tax. Nothing has been done. Please, taxation is the in thing now. Let us work on it.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. So we will take your comments and your comment. Please, let's keep it within 120 seconds. But what I will say to all these passionate contributions is when we are done here, go behind and join a NASBA working group because we need experts in the room. When we start this clause-by-clause conversation, we need experts in the room. When these lawmakers call for public hearing, we want to show up. This is how we support this process, okay? It's just by the way. So passionate conversations, but we must jump in. Yes, ma.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Mrs. Abiola Ogumbi. I play in the tourism space. Nigerians in the diaspora, Dr. Teriba, you've mentioned it, and I'm reacting to your comments, that the shortfall that we have in the economy, we also know that the Nigerians in the diaspora have played a very positive role in bridging that gap, at least some point. You can imagine, and I'm talking to our legislators now, in passing some of these acts, especially, the road. The importance of tourism, the rest of the world is talking about $1 trillion industry. We have the committed Nigerian spirit. Can you just imagine the benefits of getting simple legislation into place to ensure that we have an enabler, even just transportation, get the roads fixed, so Nigerians can come home. Apart from sending money, they actually come home and bring the money home to spend in here. And then, of course, invite their friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You have the last say from the floor.
Okay, my name is Sam Okafor. I'm the Chief Operating Officer, Sets Power Projects. I just have a question for the honorable members. I want to know if their holiday is being guided by any act. I mean, must they go on holiday? Because we keep hearing of 2 months holiday, that one holiday. Meanwhile, there is work to be done. Okay. So that is question for them. Then let me now go to this act on movable vehicles. Please, I'm asking a question. Was there any act stopping banks from lending based on movable vehicles? If there was, then all the bank MDs should actually be in jail now because they have all been lending before. The reason they are not lending today is not because there was no legislation. It is because of the risk attached to movement of vehicles. The last one I did as a banker was I used a Mercedes G-Wagon or whatever. When the man's business was going down, he just drove it across the border to Ghana. And that was it till today. How will this asset register stop such a man from driving his vehicle to Ghana? Have we also tried to find out what the banks did when they started having issues of bad debtors? You borrow from here, borrow from there. I think through CBN, they established what they call Credit Risk Management Bureau. Why can't you or us attach this thing without going through the senators, who are obviously always on holiday? Thank you.
Okay, I think there were more questions for the senators. So,
I think just before he says anything, Oga, I understand your point. But right now, we need them on our side. So, I apologize. We're not fighting you because we need solution. That's just the bottom line. Right now, we need them to work together with us to solve the problem. And if they're here today, these ones are not on holidays.
And just by the way, to take off my moderator hat, as a stakeholder, this, in my experience, has been the most engaging National Assembly, and I've done this for 15 years, that we have had. They are the most willing to sit down and listen to a business presentation. They are the most willing to sit with specialists and experts and understand things that they didn't learn in school just to get it right. So we need to give these guys a hand. That's a fact. So thank you for that hand. But if you want to answer the holiday question, up to you. But there are some more important things to deal with. I think first the point that Dr. Teriba made about creating a legislative structure for recognition, decision, and action is crucial. Then the CEO of the NESG raised that question of, we have 14 bills we need to harmonize. When? It's a simple question. When, and can we get it done in 2 months? Or 1 month? Then there is then the set of questions of the rolling over, the constitutional arrangements for rolling over, so we are not starting from ground zero. And of course, my brother spoke eloquently about the impact of the road fund bill, which I am so fond about, and I hope we can get that going. So why don't I allow the lawmakers take a shot first, and then I'll come back to the private sector, okay? So, but we need to make this, so I'm going to allow you to have a response that lasts just 2 minutes. Yes, sir.
Thank you, moderator. The 2 areas I would like to talk about is the space of time for passage of any legislation. You see, when you are into this process, and it is like you are building for nobody. In foreign parliament, we have a group of people called lobbyists. In every aspect of the economic group, people should take it as their own legislation. But the fear of Nigerians that whenever you raise a legislation, their fear goes to interference with their activities and tax, which is completely out of place. When we were doing competition bill, a lot of organizations, the essence of competition bill was to create opportunity for small, medium, micro, and medium enterprises, which has been blocked by the bigger organizations, not allowing them to participate. But some group of companies went on rampage, and the smaller ones we are trying to protect, we are not there to be part of what is happening. But because the parliament knows the importance of that legislation, they stood their ground. At the moment, for that particular bill, which is in my own committee, I'm assuring this August gathering that before the end of this month, the conference was scheduled for yesterday, Tuesday, which is yesterday. But the chairperson of the same committee in Senate had an overseas engagement, which is also at the interest of the nation. and was not there. So it cannot hold because it's a conference committee which will harmonize the position of the House and the position of the Senate. When we talk about space of time, naturally on any bill, it depends on the interest found with the owners of that bill, the operators of that bill. A bill can take 2 months to end up the entire processes. It can take 1 month, depending on the pressure piled on the lawmakers. And that is where the lobbying comes in. I handled one bill on franchise. In short, I could not sleep until that bill was moved to Senate for concurrence, because of the people who has the interest, who wishes to utilize the opportunity provided from that bill. Nigeria has none up to this moment until it is signed into law. So the will is important. The pressure is important, showing that interest. So we need the gathering here to liaise with NASBA for them to push for the bills that are lying waste, because the effort to get a bill in the 2 chambers is not a small one. Interests of different organizations and individuals are also defeated to arrive at that legislation. And if it lies there, those efforts, those funds, those time are like wasted time. For me, in my committee, I don't allow any bill on economic of this country waste any time at all. And the Senate is doing their best, but concurrence is always the issue.
Thank you, sir. Well said. So we have the commitment from Honorable Sylvester. Let me move to this side. Honorable sir, you're next.
Thank you very much, moderator. A quick one. The legislative interventions come in 3 parts: reenactment of an act, amendment of an act, or repealing of an obsolete act. These 3 things come, like Professor Tariba said. He said, when you recognize a law, the actions you take to make sure that you do the needful. But I want to quickly say, to dispel the fear, whether we'll be able to do it. If one person sponsors one of the bills, we are in the House of Rep 360, and in the Senate 109. The 104 bills are not the issue. It is the question of getting quality bill that will stand the test of time. Lawmaking, just like somebody mentions that when laws are made, it has to last for a long time, and when you want to change it, it's going to be, it takes a longer time. That will create confidence in investors for them to come and participate. But when you are doing laws, or when you're making laws, without making sure that it meets global standard, because it requires a lot of research. The collaborations we are getting from NASBA, as mentioned by him, is high. We're happy and we are working with you. But the interest behind is what you've not, like my colleague mentioned. When this thing gets to a particular process, people that felt that it's not protecting their interest will be. Sir, on PIB, classically, the interests that are fighting against PIB are greater than the interests that are for PIB. That is, it's not about National Assembly. Because you are not going to make laws in isolation. You are making it for an industry or for a people. Laws are meant for man. And those people that are going to drive the laws must have a buy-in before we as legislators will. Because there are rules for us to do it. So these are the things we say. That's why when we're talking about lobby, when issues arise and there's someone to say, this is our position on this, and to convince the other person, let us leave this. It's going to be for the good of everybody. These are what we need. We are just going to be unbiased arbiter. We sit back because we are making laws for the people. It is people that will make the laws for that will determine, this is okay for us. Because enforcement of laws are also very important. Like my senior colleague said here, he made it very clear that the aspect of implementation of act, or those who are going to apply the laws that are made by National Assembly, is also very important. So that is why, in coming to answer most of the questions that have been asked here, first and foremost, we will do all we can to make sure we pass the laws then there is a rule in the House that said that if bills are passed both houses before the life of the previous the assembly goes, there is a method of reintroducing it without going de novo. So it is not going to mean the end of it. The entire processes that have been accomplished before that time, before assenting, even if it comes back unassented to, it will be reactivated in the House, assuming that the House is the same. Because when laws are made, there's a position where you get to, if the conferences have been done and it's with the same report, it will go over into the new House or the new assembly alive, and it will continue and it will be passed as if it was continued from the last House. So that one is also taken care of. Then, between the road fund and the PIB and the tax policy. Madam, on the issue of taxation has a lot to do with infrastructure that is not only the National Assembly can create. For you to widen your tax, the tax rate you have, you need to identify every Nigerian. You need to have addressing system. These are basic infrastructure that needs to be there. You have 14 million Nigerians being taxed out of 180 million. What of the informal sector? It's not only the legislation. We want executive to understand that every Nigerian must count. If you have the identity of every Nigerian and have proper addressing system, these are not only things legislation can do, but there are aspects of this we can put in place over time. Take, for instance, during the colonial master, every citizen is known, documented. Births are recorded, deaths are recorded. We don't have those records anymore. You can't compel people to widen your tax net. But if you have proper records of everybody and businesses, they're even getting businesses that are informal sector, you're talking about leakages, to get formalized, so that you can easily widen your tax net. These are critical infrastructure we are looking at. We are looking at all those things, but we also need the political will from executive to put the needful in place so that we know every Nigerian, know those who are eligible to pay taxes and those who can increase our internal revenue. So when those places are coming, we look at it. My sister on the tourism aspect, things are being done to make sure that we improve the infrastructure, generally from legislative angle. But it requires all of us, including the executive, to do the needful by making sure that these things are put in place so that we will move forward. And my brother that feels that we are taking too much time in holiday, legislative work goes on. Even plenary, as being seen on the television, is not the only legislative work. Even in the course of the holiday, I'm Deputy Chairman of Appropriation. I was all through, if you look at my passport, I did not travel to anywhere. I was in Abuja, oftentimes maybe travel to Lagos or Anambra, but we were here working on committees. Committees are where the engine room of legislation goes on. Even what we are talking about can continue to go on among committees without, when you see vacation, holiday, or legislative holiday, it's about plenary. Plenary does not decide legislative work. The legislative calendar is all through the year, and we're always working. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Dada, have your say, and then I'll come back to the private sector for the last words.
Thank you very much. I think we have a lot of bias about the working of the Senate. And they are always at the receiving end. That's not the issue. You see, before I got to the Senate, it's my 2 years in the Senate, I had the same notion that they are not doing anything. But now when I go there, I see the challenges involved. You see, we're talking of various opinion and change of opinion across the country. And everybody put his own interest first. And that has been the challenges you have. When you pass bills in the Senate, and then the House fails to pass the same bill, then you go nowhere. Those are the issues, are interest group. And when you not say about lobby, that seems like maybe probably in America, it qualifies a lobby group that want to make sure their own side of the story is hard. Well, here is different. And we appreciate if people can understand the legislative journey of bills to the House, from infancy, development into after the passing the bill. It takes a long time. Sometimes we have 16 bills. Our concern in the Senate is to pass bills that are critical to develop my economy. That is the major focus point. Right? When you have 340 bills, then the selection comes in. Which one comes first? It's the chicken or the egg. So let's do the bill that continue to move the economy forward, and that's the major issue we have. The banking reforms we have is there. The tax reform is there. All these bills add value to end of the day to the economy of the country. But when individuals who are not versatile about the way the calendar of the accelerator works, they feel on holiday all the time. No, I'm the vice chairman of the public accounts. I've inspected almost over 100 accounts of various agencies, and it's cumbersome because what are you looking for? I'm not looking for fraud at all. I don't want to see whether they use the resources very well. And these are the issues. When you say, what are they doing? You don't see anybody on television. You saw the whole place empty. They are committee rooms. Everybody's working in committee rooms. Sometimes I don't leave the assembly until 8 o'clock at night. I have so much to do. But as long as people are concerned, the senators are spending money on clothes, the senators are doing, no, that's not the issue. Let's see the quality argument put forward. I want to ask one other question I'd like to mention, which is the issue of taxation. Our economy is now in distress. The way you can raise funds is just taxation. We are going to increase VAT, more increase personal tax, more increase all this to generate revenue locally. Otherwise, end of the day, the country itself will have no money to play with. When federal government also quarantine all the funds through TSA, the end of the day, the bank itself accounts our funds. These are all the counterproductive policy systems that are there. And I will look forward to see the populace to also take initiatives and pressurize the legislature to do things that are right. When you keep quiet, you don't get involved. Then if you have a bill, you must come out and come to public hearing. They don't come to public hearing, you send the whole public for 24 hours, they will not turn up, and they want the bill to pass. So it will be both ways. There will be interaction of our parties to all be involved in it. Finally, the issue of movable or immovable assets, yes. I think what is so beautiful now is that we have credit bureau, we have BVN, we have database management system. This can help trace ownership of things. It can also help trace bad debtors. If you want to run around and they can have your name in BVN, they can track you down to a passport system, they can know who you are. And so this will stop corruptions and those abuses that we are witnessing today in the banking system and the line system. So I won't like to go on that, but make sure that the Senate, in the next couple of months, all bills that are crucial to develop the Nigerian economy must be passed. That's the commitment we're looking at. Yes.
Thank you, Senator Dada. And I will go to Dr. Teriba. Dr. Teriba, there are two things I would like to pull together. What role, in answering some of these questions, what role should economic research and academia, because in your own words, in beginning, you pointed to the fact that recognition is critical. All the lawmakers are not necessarily economists. And access to what you the economic analysis you delivered at the beginning of your presentation is not common to all. What role should the National Assembly play in building mechanisms of recognition? For example, you described a case where for Congress's own consumption, they created a set of sessions, first to be educated, before, so that they can then recognize. So is there a link between what NASBA is doing and the economic research community, think tanks, and knowledge networks to provide enough evidence for recognition mechanisms? Can you fuse that into what you then think our next steps should be as we bring this panel to a close?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Yes, I'll respond to your point, but I have two issues going from the discussion, which is the tax issue.
Can you speak up a bit louder?
And then the possible destinations of foreign investment. But I start with yours. Well, we shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. The two examples, you can consider the United States and Britain as probably the most effective legislators in the world. They go by select committees. So it's nice that there's this collaborative committee within the Economic Summit Group. The ultimate goal should be to assimilate such committees into the National Assembly. They have it not just on the economy, they have it on health, they have it on technology, they have it on even, if you like, defense. So I think that should be our ultimate. We should just learn from what they are doing. And the benefit of having such select committees who have no legislative roles, but just recognize, and decide on action, is that they also handle the oversight. In England, they are the ones that recruit members of the central bank. They are the ones that, and they interview them every year. And any expert wanting to go before a select committee, go there, with fear, because you can't claim to be more informed than they are. I would want to concentrate it there. And then it's common to both chambers. Usually select committees cut across. They cut across both chambers. They cut across parties. So everybody is informed. Taxation, I will caution that for an economy that has recently just come out of recession, has recently seen 50% devaluation, has seen nearly 20% inflation. What you tax is either profit or income. Yeah? In the environment we just described, profitability is not likely to be huge. So you can try to do more on tax, but don't expect much payoffs to that. Yes. Better sources, of revenue for government. I'll give you an example. Britain issued a sukuk in 2014. And that sukuk, the source of income on the sukuk, is rent on government property. So there are countries who generate net rent income. There are countries who pay net rent. Okay, they don't have any income. They have deficit. So we should check what's the situation in Nigeria. Government has land, government has property. Are we a net rent payer or we are a net rent earner? You will get more payoffs from doing that sort of reform than trying to tax. And it could be leases, rents and leases. And you could also do partial privatization of assets where government own 100%, they are inefficiently run. The fact that you want to privatize them would mean that first they have to be run on close to commercial terms. And so you get income from that. I'll give you an example of, which sectors do we need legislative attention that are potential destinations for investment. Incidentally, for Nigeria today, it's all infrastructure sectors except telecoms. All infrastructure sectors are 100% government owned, and they are inefficiently run, and they are underfunded. And I give you an example of Saudi Arabia. They've been in the same situation with us. They came to the realization. In May, they announced privatization across 16 sectors, which had been under government monopoly. At a minimum, it means there's going to be a legislation breaking government monopoly, allowing. We've done that successfully in telecoms. We need to also list, I don't know how many sectors. And those are the biggest destinations for investment. In Saudi, they have 40 million people. Here, we probably have 180 million. And they put a tag. They are trying to raise $200 billion from those 16 sectors. So if Saudi with 40 million people, what happened in telecoms? Can they connect 160 million lines in Saudi? There's no infrastructure sector that you look at in Nigeria that you can compare Saudi to. So, but they have recognized, they've taken decision, they're acting, we too should act. The legislature could take the lead and the executive will follow. Thank you.
Just to point out that we have recognized, we have decided, we have the bills. What we need from the lawmakers is also to act. Mrs. Awoshika, you will have the final say because our time is fast spent. Private sector actions, stakeholder actions, let me let you bring this to a close.
Okay. For me, I think that we must recognize where we've come to and what's been achieved in a very short period of time by the combined effort. And what it's proven to me is, first, there must be recognition of the fact that Nigeria belongs to all of us. We all have responsibility for the results that we seek to get out of this country. And that private sector cannot sit back and demand from government without engaging, because in the real sense, there's a lack of capacity on the other side to actively deliver to us as a private sector what we need. There's no sector where you do business that the people in government who you need to interface with know better than you do. And therefore, it's by us getting involved in that active engagement in a supportive role, the identification, which we do not have a structure for right now, is what NASBA and organizations like that can feel. And the recognition has been done by NASBA in many areas. There's still many areas that we need a lot of help, which is why we're saying every part of the private sector that needs solutions needs to be involved in creating the solution. So we need resources in terms of manpower to do that. We need financial resources, because there are people traveling back and forth, working full-time on this, working with the National Assembly to try and make sure that these laws are passed. We need it. We all need it. So I was going to say we need it more than they do, but we all need it. Maybe their salaries get paid even if it doesn't happen, but ours doesn't, because the economics is our butter and bread, and we need to make sure that these things happen. And if we're driven with that understanding that ultimately, when the economy does well, we all benefit from it, and it's not going to do well by itself. And that's the commitment of the Economic Summit Group. That's the commitment of the Nigerian Bar Association, the business section of it. And if organizations like DFID, that is a British government agency, can commit resources to help us achieve a goal, then we ourselves should be ashamed if we don't put our own resources to back what we seek. And if our lawmakers have been honest enough to say to you, look, these are the things that need to happen. We can't do this by ourselves. We need push, we need commitment, we need lobbying. Then that's what we do, because once you know what the problem is, then you seek to find a solution, because ultimately it's that solution that will serve our purpose. So I hope it doesn't end here for us, that we've had this session, we all wait till the next Economic Summit Group, Economic Summit. We're saying, no, it cannot be. One thing is they've made commitment to us. We will hold you accountable for that, sir. It will set up a team of young people that will send you SMS every day, so that we will remind you of the deadlines that you've given to us. We will have people working on Twitter and everything, reminding the country that these are the commitments that the lawmakers made to us. And we will list the 104 laws that must be accomplished. And we will say, this is what we've put forward, and this is what they have committed to. But we know that you're Nigerians too, and you want us to succeed. So we will do this together for the sake of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam.
Just before we jump out of this session, if you have worked on any NASBA bill, can you just rise to your feet, please? Yeah. You have worked on any NASBA bill. Can you rise to your feet if you're in the room? Please keep clapping. Encourage them to stand. Please stand. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, everyone that is standing has done it for free. They've paid their way. Please keep clapping. They've paid their way to come to Abuja. Sometimes we're in Abuja for 1 week, 2 weeks. Some of them have flown into Abuja 10 or 11 times. They are the ones that are making it happen. Distinguished lawmakers, behold your partners.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Now, everyone here is making a commitment to support you here. And we believe that together we will make it happen. That together we have recognized what needs, please be seated. We've recognized what needs to change. We've made a decision to do it together. All that is left is to take Nike's advice. Just do it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. The panel came late after lunch. And so I decided, I took my exercise book and I was looking at faces that were sleeping. Nobody slept. Nobody. So that's actually to this panel that has actually delivered at a very wrong time. Can we put our hands together for them, ladies and gentlemen? Let me invite the chairman and the CEO to please join them here for a group photograph. Thank you. And so while they are doing that, as soon as this photograph is over, we'll need to vacate the hall immediately because Hilton will have barely 1 hour to reset this place for the first bank-sponsored dinner that is focused on entrepreneurship and creating jobs later tonight. And so we'll expect to see all of you